Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I'm your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, and today we have more prizes! 6 new miniatures that you will usually find in prizes or purchased from Weird for their special sales, but normally not purchasable on store shelves. We have the vintage Misaki Katanaka, the alt Bayou Gator, the Terious, one of the first Miss models. This is an alt Death Marshal, the alt Katanaka Sniper, Misfire, which is an alt of Willie, the Demolitionist from the Arcanists, and lastly, an alt Francisco Ortega, the far superior Sculpt. Alright, let's begin. Alright, here's our Misaki sprue. Sadly, we do not have instructions, or at least I could not find any. That's alright, not a ton of bits, and it all seems fairly obvious where everything goes, at least if you have a render. I can throw up a render. I'll throw up a render before we start this. Alright, so we've got the body. Let's just do the entire body, then we'll do the two basing pieces and plop her on top. We've got a body. We've got a flap for the front crotch. We've got flaps for the back butt. After that, we will do the arm with the spear, the head, and this ribbon. We'll glue the ribbon to the head first and then plop the head on top of the body. And then that should be it for her body, and we can do the basing bit. So order of operations: body, flap, back flap, arm, combine these two, and then add that to the body, and then add it to the basing. All right, let's go. All right, Misaki's body, our first smaller flap, gonna go right in there. Okay. All right, our next flap, gonna go across the butt. Part of it will connect up to the scarf she has on her arm, though. Cool. All right, our right arm is next. Obviously it'll fit in the shoulder, but also there is a bit of the shawl, scarf, whatever, that will attach to the bit we just put on her back. Okay, this is almost definitely the worst bit for this assembly. It fits in the shoulder just fine, just the connection with the scarf shawl thing doesn't really make much sense. Like, it would have to twist really hard, but how you do this, you just make sure it fits into the shoulder as well as you can, and then align these two up right in there. There's a connection point in the inner part of the elbow. Yep, that's good. Keep in mind that it will go underneath this shawly bit. Okay, now let's grab the two bits of the head. There's one bit. The ribbon will go right here on the back of the neck. Alright, there it is. Now we can jam the head on the body. Alright, quick look at the back. That was a little fiddly to get on there, but the back of the neck, it really gets flush when you know it's in there correctly. Let's see right there. Alright, let's combine the two pieces of the base. Now our right foot has a nice plug that will just go right in there, and our left foot will connect right there. Okay. See how the feet align. All done. Let's put her on a base. Alright, vintage Misaki Katanaka is completed. Hardest parts for this build really was the left arm. Right arm. Had a hard time figuring out that angle and how the shawl thing attached to it, but I eventually got it figured out. I guess the bow on the back of her, the tied knot and trailing streamers on the back of her head was also just ever so slightly weird, but really mostly was just that right arm. Goodness. All right. Overall, not too bad. Let's move on. Okay, our Bayou Gator is next. This one does not have any sort of instructions or render, but should should be fairly easy to build. So the nice thing about this, or an interesting thing about this, is that you have the option of including the gremlin victim in the Bayou Gator's mouth or not. If you want the gremlin to be in the gator's mouth, you will pick this top head, which has this fairly obvious connection point right here. If you want just to have a gator with no victim, then you will use this head. We're obviously going to do the more complicated route, so we will assemble the gator. Well, there is also the mouth bottoms here. The one with the connection point right here is going to be if we decide to put the victim in there, which we will, and this is the one for if you do not want the victim. Right, so we will, again, we're going to put the victim on there because it's more complicated. And honestly, I think it looks better. Right, I have it upside down. So, gator body, other half of the top half of the gator body. We'll do the front legs, or back, I think these are back legs actually. The legs that are on the sprue, and the tip of the tail, plus the two parts of the head. Actually, no, we'll just do the bottom jaw. And then we will attach the top half of the gremlin with the bottom half of the gremlin. Then we'll glue it to either the bottom jaw or the top. I think the bottom. And then we'll put on the top of the head after all of that, all right? So let's first cut out the two halves of the gator body. Bottom half of the gator, now add the top. All right, that's a gator body. Our legs are in fact the back leg, silly me. One of them has a very obvious connection tooth hole situation, the other one doesn't, which will make it easier to identify them. So this guy, we'll see, he is the one with the tooth, so this will be the back right leg, and then this one will have to be the back left leg. Let's do the back right leg first. Okay. Now back left leg. Gator's coming along good. Now we'll do the tip of the tail. Okay. That likes to pop out very easily, so make sure to let it cure and not mess with it too much. Alright, the last thing we're going to do before we work on the gremlin, well, let's look at our sprue. Alright, so this is the lower jaw we're going to be using. Let's go ahead and add that. Then we'll combine the two halves of the gremlin, pop that in the mouth, connecting it to this, and then add the top of the head, which is going to be this one. So, lower jaw, two bits of the gremlin, upper jaw. I'm going to remove this just because it's not obvious exactly how it's supposed to fit in. So we will do the entire head, then attach it to the next stump. I apologize. So now let's combine our two halves of our gremlin. Okay, here are the two halves of our gremlin friend combined. And now we attach the lower jaw here. It's going to be definitely an awkward fit. Just get them so they can connect, and that the lower jaw lines up with this line right here on his waist. We'll definitely get it better sorted once we put the upper jaw on. Okay, I definitely recommend making sure that the gremlin is fully cured before you attempt this, because the lower jaw will pop into place, which is very satisfying, but if the gremlin isn't fully cured like mine is, then it'll just kind of tear him in half again. You got to do the whole thing over again. But yeah, it will pop into place. It will look real nice. You can definitely see where the upper jaw is going to fit on his back. So we're going to go ahead and do that next. And there we go. That actually was fairly easy, and you can tell it's in right because the sleeve of the gremlin covers up that one connection point I pointed out, which is how you determine that this is the upper jaw of the gator that is eating the gremlin. But we see our connection point for the body. Now let's do that. Okay, I'm not entirely sure that this is the exact rotation of the neck, but the seam looks best here. So if you've got a big open seam, then make sure that the two halves of the head are as pushed together as possible, and then just do a little bit of rotation until it looks good. But we're all done. Let's put them on a base. And one last look, if you don't want to deal with the gremlin, these are the two halves of the head where he's just got his mouth open and he's not eating anything. So use those. The alt Bayou Gator is done. Excuse me, all the difficulty lied in trying to figure out how to get the gremlin inside of his mouth. If you're doing the non-eating gremlin mouth, it'd be a lot easier for you, but I think it looks a lot better when he's in mid-chomp. I think a lot of difficulty is resolved by me telling you how it's supposed to go, and you getting a good view, a good 360 view of it, should help you figure it out pretty well. So, let's keep going. Our third mini is Miss Terious, and sadly this one also does not have any instructions. Boo. But not a lot of bits, and it's pretty straightforward. So, effectively two parts to this mini. We've got the coffin and then the actual model herself. So we'll build the coffin first. We'll take this side and add both of these shorter sides to it here and here, and then we will add the other side to it, finish off with the top of the box, just this bit right there. And that'll be the entirety of the coffin. And then we'll grab the lady, we'll go ahead and install her foot, followed by her right arm, left arm, and then her head, followed by her hat, and then we'll put both of them together on the base. This one comes with its own base on sprue. Cool. So effectively we're cutting out these 5 pieces first. Okay, we're going to start with this side of the coffin and then work on the edges. They seem to be able to fit equally on both sides. However, the chains don't actually line up. So that's all you need to do is just dry fit it and make sure the chains line up. This one is correct, so let's glue that first. Okay, there we go. Trimming off the sprue nubbins was quite possibly the worst part of this. It was a big pain to chunk out that whole thing, but if you don't do it, they're not going to fit together well, so gotta deal with that. Just make sure that you do it right, is why I'm mentioning it. Right, our other side of the coffin right there. Alright, and the chains line up. Cool. Just put the door on the coffin now. Okay, and again, chains line up. Now let's just add the top. I do not think there is a specific direction it's supposed to go in. We're done with the coffin. Now we can begin with Miss Terious herself. Again, order, grab the body, do the foot, the right arm, left arm, the head, and the hat. Alright, here's the body, turn around, foot's gonna go right there. Looks good. Now let's do the right arm. Okay, she's holding it fairly far behind her, but that's the only way that you can get the shoulder fit nice and flush, and seems to match the render, so pretty good. I believe it might also be sitting on the ground, but we'll see. Now we can add the left arm. That's another one with slightly odd positioning. I believe it's supposed to be touching her belt because this looks like it is a holster. So glue it in the shoulder, glue it on the belt. I think the strap across the thigh is supposed to match up with the strap on the holster. So we're good. Now let's plop her head in the head hole. Alright, head's in. Could probably squish that down ever so slightly, but our last piece is the hat. Hat doesn't have a terribly obvious way it's supposed to sit on her head, but we do see this bit of her hair, which is, I think, her bangs. It matches the render I found, so it's going to fit something like that, because that looks pretty good. There we go. Just make sure it's on the same plane as the rest of her hair. And yeah, that's a good seam. So these appear to be able to stand independently from each other on the base, but you can probably have her leaning up against it. Well, I'll figure out the best way to place them. Okay, there we go. There is just the tiniest little dent back there that I think her heel goes into, even though I didn't get it to quite line up. But, yeah, she more or less matches the render. I call her good. Oh, arm poking out of the back should be towards the back. I guess nothing saying you can't turn around and have it, like, out to grab her. Up to you. Alright, she's done. Miss Terious is completed. Model was pretty simple. The pain points being sort of figuring out how the angles of the arms worked, because they don't really have good solid connection points in the shoulders to give you a good guide of where things are supposed to go. So I had to do a bit of guesswork. Also, figuring out how the hat went on was a little weird. But overall, moderately difficult, I think, just because it's a really, really old one, and you know the old sculpts are a lot harder to build than the new ones. Okay, let's move on. Okay, finally something we have instructions for. We'll look at that after we go through our assembly order, but as far as building them, we will glue the two legs together and then put the crotch flap on them. Crotch flap has an extra little bit that you need to shave off. You can see where the connection point is, and then this round peg needs to come off. And then we will add the torso on top, glue the upper part of the torso to that, and then do each of the arms. I think this is our left arm and this is our right arm. We'll attach those to the sword he is carrying, which will also attach here on his tummy, and then finish with the rifle on his back. Alright, now let's look at the instructions, grab both legs and this flap after that. Okay, starting with our left leg, which is the one with the hole, add the right leg. Alright, both legs, check the same on the back. It's going to be a little wiggly, but once we add the crotch flap right there, it should even out. So add that next. Alright, crotch flap in, make sure it's flush up against, well, the crotch. Now, our next few bits, we will grab the torso. This is the part that will be attached to the legs. We will be looking at this connection point that is the front of the body, and then we'll stack the shoulders and head and cape on top of that. Okay, torso is on. It's a little slidey, but just make sure the belt looks nice all the way around, and that our connection points are... The back is nice and flat without any obvious ridges. Alright, now add the upper body and the cape. Another thing that you need to trim, you kind of see this circular area back here. It had a protrusion I had to shave down because we really want the armor, you can see sort of the armor here, to just be flat up against the torso. So now we can add the important parts. You should be able to wiggle it to where it looks really nice and flush, and you can barely tell there's a seam there. I'm not entirely sure why I said important parts, but I guess having a lower intestines and legs and stuff is important. Anyways, now our arms, and again, I think this is going to be our left arm and this is going to be our right arm, but we shall see. But once we get those two in, we'll do the sword and then the gun and put them on the base. Actually, no, that was dumb of me. Let's put the sword in first, and that way we can connect the arms to both the wrist and the shoulder at the same time. But yes, I actually lost track of which arm was which. However, the more bent one, which I believe I said was the left arm, is indeed the left arm, and that will go in here and here, and then the slightly more extended one will go in here and here. He has got like knives tucked into the armor on his forearms, and that way you can tell which one is which. So let's add the left arm. And there we go. Took a little bit of fiddling, but that looks pretty good. Now the slightly more extended right arm, doing the same thing. There we go. Normally I'd say probably plug it into the shoulder and then gently guide it to where the wrist is, but actually gluing it to the wrist first gives you a better idea of how it's supposed to fit into the shoulder. Just because those shoulders are pretty big connection points and it's fairly flat, so there's a lot of guesswork. But the body's all done. Now we can put the gun on his back with the barrel pointed up towards the sky. Do that now. Okay, he's done. Put him on a base. The alt Katanaka sniper is done. Hardest part for him was getting the arms in, attaching them to the shoulder and the hands on the blade, but I think doing them first and then trying to align the blade up with them would have been a lot harder. So just do a little bit of poking, a bit of prodding, should be just fine. Let's move on. Alright, Misfire is going to be our next build, and she is almost definitely the hardest part of, the hardest model in this assembly of 6. She's got a lot of bits, but I built her before, and I don't recall her being too difficult. I could be misremembering, but the build has 3 different distinct parts of the assembly. So there's the main bike frame, which is the big wheel, the 2 halves of the big wheel, and then these 2 sides of the frame. And then we can put together Misfire herself, which is 2 legs, her torso, the arm, the arm dropping a stick of dynamite, and then the arm holding on to the satchel, which I think might need to go on before the dynamite arm. That's what the instruction says, which we have instructions for this. Hooray. After that, we will add... actually, we need to add some dynamite into the bag, which is... this one, the one with only 1 hole. Right, after the satchel is on, then we can do her arm, her other arm, which will also connect her to the bike itself, and then finish with her little, the tail of her coat. And then everything else will be the back part of the bike, the stabilizing wheel, which is this forked thing of these 2 halves of the wheel, and let's see, barrel part, and dynamite stuff. Anyways, that's pretty far off. Sorry. So let's just look at the instructions, then we'll start with the main body of the bike, which will be these 2 wheel parts and then these 2 frame parts. Well, I screwed up, honestly. I accidentally snapped off this part of this bit. You can kind of see the line there. Easy enough to fix and make sure it's still in line. And the good thing is that the rest of the bits will make sure that it will sit in place. So just be very careful. These things are really thin. It's been a long time since I made this kind of screw up. I apologize. But all right, now we can actually do the wheels. Now, as far as I can tell, they have no particular side they need to go on. You can just see that they need to line up around the center. It's mostly circular, but there is 2 flat sides, a longer flat side on top and a short, actually, nope. Longer flat side on the bottom and a taller, the shorter flat side on top, which will go ahead and fit over the bit I just pointed out that I broke off. Oops. There we go. You can see that there is the longer flat side there and the shorter flat side there. I cannot tell if they are on a particular side or not. They seem to be fairly similar. So pick whatever one you want. There is the tiniest bit of difference where this one has this little swoosh down here that the other side doesn't, but I don't think that matters. I'm just going to say that this side, without the swoosh, is our left side, so I'm going to be putting it on the frame bit first. Okay, make sure it's squished on there all the way. Now add the other part of the wheel. Alright, that should be fairly flush. And now we can add our last frame piece, which will connect here, obviously, but also right underneath this part. Oh, there we go, or at least that's mostly how we go. Without squishing it and bending it out of place, there just is a little gap there that I'm not entirely sure how to get that correctly, but it looks good enough and enough of the plastic melted together that you can't really tell that there's a gap anymore, so I'm gonna call it good. But yes, that is our main body of the bike first. So now we can get on to building our Misfire herself. Quick reminder on the build order. We will do both legs, her torso. We'll add the dynamite to the bag. I don't remember which one, but I'll point it out. This bag here. We'll put the bag over her shoulder. And then we'll do her arm holding the dynamite, her other arm holding the handlebars, and we'll take that opportunity to connect her to the seat of the bike as well, and finish off with the tail of her coat. Alright, to show you how long it's been since I assembled this, I did not realize she actually attaches to the seat, and we need to basically connect her legs to the seat as we connect them to each other. So we'll go ahead and do her left leg first. You see this nice notch in the seat as well as this weird peg, and that is going to slot into her leg right here. You see where that peg will go, as well as the bike seat, but also the rim of the tire will fit in this groove right here, and her foot will be on the pedal. So let's add that first. Right, there we go, foot on the pedal, and well, it's probably easier to see here how everything lines up, but it's nice and neat. All right, now we can attach the other leg here to the side of the frame and the seat and put the foot on the pedal. All right, that looks real nice. Gotta squish the legs together. Don't want too big of a crack in the butt. From the foot, we can now just jam the torso on top right there. Okay. I think her cigar is a little bent, but there we go. Let's actually do the tail of her coat jacket next. I'll just be covering up the butt effectively. Okay. That looks good. Next, we will figure out this whole bag situation. So there's our satchel, and the dynamite bit will go right on top there, effectively having it be that, oh, the bag is stuffed full of dynamite. Our bit, I've got to flip it over again, is this one with the singular hole in it. Okay, there we go. Now add the dynamite. Takes a little bit of effort to get it to pop in, but it is a solid fit. Now, can't really tell offhand which side is which unless you look at the detail. This side is fairly smooth. This side is fairly detailed, so we know that this will be facing out towards us. So we can go ahead and put this on her shoulder across her body. I'm so wrong on the difficulty of this build. I deeply apologize. Yeah, you want to put the bag on before you attach the torso to the legs. That's important because I'm not sure you can actually get it around her head and this arm, but if you loop it up through the torso, it's actually not that hard to get into place. The strap will go between the boobers, and that basically gets it to set in the exact spot it's supposed to. So, yep, attach the bag before we attach the torso to the legs. So I'm going to go put her back on now. Okay, she's looking good. You can barely tell I had to rip off the torso. All right, next will be the right arm and the handlebars, which will just sit right here and connect to the arm. Okay, yeah, definitely need some tweezers to get that on there. I dropped mine and it fell on the carpet. Right, do our right arm now, left arm, and we can call the body done. Hooray. Something easy for once. All right, we can set her down gently and then get started on the back of the bike. Okay, lots of small bits. Okay, so the main body of this part is going to be this bit, which we will cut out first, and then we'll do each of the sides of the barrel. Here's the middle half of the barrel, and then we got one side and two sides. They have specific sides they're supposed to go on. I'll point those out later. Once we're done with that, we'll take these two halves of this bundle of dynamite, glue them together, and we'll stick them right underneath this bag right here. And then we'll take this part and this part, glue them together. It's two bundles of dynamite. They'll go along the right side of the barrel and satchel. I found a render for the Mini. In fact, I'll just show it right after this real quick, just to show you exactly how that's supposed to go, because it's really hard to see on the instructions. Once we have all the dynamite attached to this piece, then we'll finally add the two wheels together, glue them onto this, and then glue the whole thing onto the main body. All right, so grab this bit, and then this bit first. Okay, our left barrel side is going to be the one with the smaller hole in it. You see this nubbin right here, and that it is smaller than this nubbin here, so we'll do that barrel half first, which is, I guess, this one right here. Okay, there is the barrel third, not half, third. Now we can go and do the other one. All right, and I think this tooth is going to be a connection point for the 2 bundles of dynamite that will go there later, but let's do the dynamite that is going to fit underneath that bag. Again, these 2 pieces, let's glue them together first. There is a specific orientation for the 2 of them. There is one side that is, if you look on the connection point, it is flatter than the other ones. You can see it's kind of smooth here, whereas if you check this side, the sticks of dynamite go across just fine, and same here, it really is just this side that has that bit of flatness to it. That is what's going to attach to the frame right up underneath the bag. All right, there we go. Just wiggle it until it looks even and good to you. Let me set this down again. We will add together next these 2 bits to make 2 bundles of dynamite. Bundles of dynamite. Piece number 1. There we go. And we got 2 bundles of dynamite. You might accidentally put them on backwards, but there's only one orientation that will actually look good. So next is going to be our little connection point you can see in there, possibly that part right there. That is going to attach to our barrel. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. So if you stare real closely, you can see that is a half circle connection point, so there's only one way it's going to go in. All right, there we go. Now we can finally cut out our 2 wheels and be done with the bits. So let's combine those boys. Here is one half of our wheel. You see that we have this connection hole here as well as this tiny one on the rim. So I'll match that up to the other one. Whoops, focus camera. There we go. Now our fork on the other piece is just going to connect right here and right here. Don't really know if there's a specific left or right side, but I don't think it's going to matter too much, so let's glue that on now. Okay, it doesn't actually reach in all the way into the center, just to this inner circle, so as long as that is sitting flat against the inner circle, and this one is also sitting flat against the inner circle, you are done. So we're done with this last third of the bit, so all we need to do is jam the frame from the larger part of the bike right into this hole, specifically this right here. All right, there we go. She is all done. We can put her on a base and call her good. Oh, good lord. Misfire is all done, and boy was she difficult. I was so wrong thinking that she wouldn't be too hard. She was quite difficult. A lot of that had to do with tiny bits and assembly order and being really careful. I feel really dumb that I broke that part of the frame, but it didn't really matter because lots of things connected to each other, so it was nice and solid anyways. But I really hope that this is helpful because it would have been, it's a difficult build even when I finally figured out what I was doing. But I think this video will be really helpful to a decent amount of people. At least those ones playing Foundry, which is not a lot of you, but maybe someday they'll be good. Anyways, let's move on. Okay, after that ordeal, we'll go with something slightly easier to round out this group of 6. This is Francisco Ortega, an alt version. One that looks a lot better than his original 2nd edition version, or 1.5, not sure when that... Anyways, we'll grab the legs and then stack the torso on top of it, do the tail, the rest of the coat, tails I guess. I think this is our right side and this is our left side. After that we can do his sword, then the arm that is sort of hovering the hand over the sword. You see the hand right here. We can do the other arm, the head, and the sombrero that connects to his back right there. All right, so 1, 2, 3 for our first 3 bits. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 for our first 4 bits. Okay, here we have the legs, but actually we're going to do at least half of the coat because I think it's going to be really awkward to jam the torso on and then try to squeeze this in. So this is the left side of the coat, and it is just going to attach right in there like that. Okay, looks real good. I think we will just, do the other side of the coat, which will connect to his right butt cheek as well as the other. Well, this might be a split. We'll see, but it should be able to connect fairly easily wrapping around the torso, the waist. Okay. Yeah, this one also looks a little weird, but you got this big patch on the back that will definitely tell you if it's aligned correctly or not. Alright, it also connects to the back of his calf. You can barely see that, but it does. Now we can add the torso. Alright. Quick spin. He's all good. Now we will do our sword. You can sort of see the groove that it'll fit into. It'll connect right here and right here. I think the big point is it's going to go up inside the coat, kind of right there. And that bit on our piece is going to be back here, this sort of strap that just gets cut off. Alright. Pretty sword. Alright, now we can do his right arm, which is just going to fit right here. Nice. Now the left arm, which doesn't really have a very solid connection point, but I'm sure we can get it to wedge up in there and look just fine. Alright. Left arm looks good. Let's do the head. The hair will also glue to the top of the shoulder, so a nice solid connection point. Alright, now we can do the sombrero, which has some fairly obvious connection points. Alright, sombrero on. He is all done. Let's put him on a base. Alternative Francisco Ortega is done. Fairly simple model. A lot easier than the previous one. Hardest parts for assembly would be, well, the coat having to go on before the torso was a bit of a surprise for me. The sword was a little fiddly to get on there, as well as left arm, but nothing that was super duper painful. Just assembly order and then odd connection points. But that's it. He looks good. As usual, I'm not going to shove them all together on the display because they aren't in the same box. We'll just end it here. So, I've been your foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build a better Malifaux.